The Japanese word ronin refers to a samurai without a master, an individual who wanders alone, carving their own path through life. The status of a ronin varied across different periods in Japanese history, but generally, being a ronin implied failure. More specifically, a ronin was someone who had renounced seppuku, a ritual suicide meant to restore honor after defeat. Those who refused seppuku became outcasts, living with the heavy weight of disgrace. While some ronin became mercenaries and bodyguards, others turned to crime. One of the most legendary ronin in history, Miyamoto Musashi, broke from this narrative by becoming Japan's greatest swordsman. Undefeated in over 60 duels, Musashi's skills were unmatched. He became a ronin after surviving the Battle of Sekigahara, serving General Hideyori. Musashi wasn't just a master of the sword, he was also a philosopher, an artist, and a devout Buddhist. Before his death, Musashi left behind 21 principles for those who walk alone, known as Dokodo, or the way of walking alone. Even though the age of the samurai has long passed, Musashi's principles are timeless, offering us wisdom that still holds meaning in our lives today. In this three-part series, we will explore Musashi's Dokodo. Each principle will be interpreted for modern life, providing insight on how we can apply this ancient wisdom today. 1. Accept everything just the way it is. In his famous work, The Book of Five Rings, Musashi explains the way of the warrior through the art of sword fighting. A key takeaway is that the way means a life of continuous practice. From a Buddhist perspective, this suggests that the only effective way to improve is by first accepting the present moment, just as it is. We cannot grow if we're unwilling to start as novices. For example, meditation practice often begins with accepting things as they are, helping us strengthen the mind. Musashi took this even further, advocating that warriors should resolutely accept death as a natural part of life, an honorable fate to maintain dignity even when facing defeat. In modern times, accepting death might feel extreme, but acknowledging our mortality can help us face life with greater courage. A Buddhist practice called corpse meditation involves contemplating death, either in the presence of a body or through imagination, to come to terms with its reality. For a ronin like Musashi, accepting one's aloneness was essential. With no master or school to support him, Musashi roamed Japan, honing his skill through solitary duels. He flourished only after embracing the loneliness that came with walking his own path. 2. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Despite being a ronin, Musashi emphasized the pursuit of virtue over the pursuit of pleasure. He could have easily chosen a life of indulgence, becoming a mercenary, or even a thief. Instead, he dedicated his life to mastering the sword and developing spiritually. For Musashi, pleasure was never the goal. At best, it was a byproduct of living virtuously. In today's world, the meaning of virtue has evolved, but the distinction between pleasure-seeking and living with purpose remains. Seeking selfish gratification often leads to shallow fulfillment, whereas acting for the greater good brings deeper satisfaction. Musashi's view on pleasure closely aligns with Stoic and Buddhist teachings, which both advocate for sense restraint. Epictetus taught that overcoming the pull of pleasure is far more rewarding than being consumed by it. Likewise, Buddhist teachings suggest that chasing sensual pleasure is like scratching an itch. It only exacerbates the desire, pulling us away from inner peace. For a ronin especially, indulging in pleasure can be a trap. Musashi's devotion to perfecting his craft would have been impossible if he had given in to worldly distractions. His message is clear. Mastery and fulfillment come from rising above the fleeting allure of pleasure. 3. Do not, under any circumstances, depend on a partial feeling. Feelings serve as important signals in our lives, but they can be misleading if relied on too heavily. Musashi understood that emotions often stem from irrational thinking, giving us only a partial view of reality. Making decisions based solely on emotions can lead to poor judgment. Instead, Musashi advocated for rational thinking and clarity of mind, particularly in high-stakes situations like battle. It's important to observe our emotions with mindfulness and ask ourselves, am I acting out of fear, anger? Am I seeing the whole picture? When emotions overpower us, the best course of action is to step back, let the dust settle, and reassess the situation with a clear mind. Musashi knew that a warrior's strength comes from calm, rational decision-making, not emotional reactivity. 4. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Despite his lethal skill, Musashi was humble, understanding that in the grand scheme of the universe, his existence was insignificant. Thinking lightly of yourself means recognizing that, while each of us is valuable, we are but a small part of the larger whole. If we die tomorrow, the world will continue on. Musashi reminds us to balance our self-worth with humility. It's not about removing ourselves from the picture, but keeping in mind the vastness of the universe and our place within it. A Ronin, walking the world alone, would have deeply understood the vulnerability that comes with being human. Humility allows us to serve a greater good, rather than becoming consumed by self-importance. 5. Be detached from desire your whole life long. Musashi believed that desire leads to suffering. When we tie our happiness to external things, whether it's wealth, power, or even relationships, we place ourselves in a vulnerable position because external circumstances are beyond our control. This principle closely aligns with Stoicism and Buddhism, both of which view desire as the root of suffering. Musashi encourages us to seek fulfillment not from the outside world, but from within. In his own words, seek nothing outside of yourself. 6. Do not regret what you have done. Regret can be a heavy burden. While it's important to reflect on past mistakes and learn from them, Musashi warns against dwelling on them endlessly. Mistakes are an opportunity for growth, and wisdom often comes from hardship. The only way to move forward is to accept the lesson and let go of the regret. 7. Never be jealous. For a Ronin, facing the world alone meant seeing others with more wealth, status, or companionship. But Musashi knew that jealousy only serves to weaken us. Focusing on what others have detracts from our own journey. The only thing we can control is our own actions. In this way, Musashi teaches us to focus on our own path, rather than being distracted by envy. These were the first 7 principles from Miyamoto Musashi's Dokudo. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll explore the remaining principles and continue our journey through Musashi's timeless wisdom.